Here is a shocking truth that's going to floor you. I'm bald. That means I have no hair. It also means that some people will mock you because of that. We've all heard the terms, you're walking down the street and someone shouts out, "Baldy!" or "Chrome Dome!" or "You f***er." They all get old very quickly, especially as a lot of bald guys are actually genuine badasses that kick butts and take names. Wrestling is full of them too. Literally full of them. You can't move for bald warriors in pro wrestling, and with that in mind, I'm Simon from What Culture, and here's the 10 baddest bald guys in wrestling history. Number 10, Cesaro. Cesaro is one bad bald mother. We're not just talking about in the ring here either. The Swiss Superman seems to be a hero in all walks of life, from lifting weights, to speaking 56 different languages, to how he carries himself as a human being. Seriously, try and find someone who speaks ill of Cesaro. They don't exist. He is, of course, hairless too, something he embraced even further last year when he went from fuzzy bits round the sides to full-on razor-like smoothness. He looks damn good with it as well, yet more proof that there's nothing the man can't do. We all know Cesaro deserves a better push in the WWE, and if I ever find out he was being held back because he's follicly challenged, well, I'll be very upset. Number 9, The Big Show. In terms of his wrestling career, The Big Show is a joiner rather than a starter. After all, he had long, luxurious locks when we first got to know him in WCW and has been reducing those ever since. Today, he has a shiny top like the best of us. Let's not forget, and it's easy to because we're all so used to him, that The Big Show is 7 feet tall and 500 pounds. I mean, he's not, because that's exaggerated pro wrestling stats, but he's still a huge individual. Do you think you could kick his ass? Because you couldn't. He'd swat you down like a fly. You couldn't even pat him on his head if you wanted to, and I would highly advise against that. He's also had a career that's gone well over 20 years and is a bona fide legend in the wrestling business. Who doesn't know The Big Show? He's been a bald winner since day one. Number 8, RYBACK. My inspiration for cosplay, RYBACK isn't just bald, he's massive. And do you know how I know he's proper massive too? Because one of the first things he did when he left the WWE was start a supplement line. You can't do that if you're not a monster, because otherwise it looks really stupid. Plus he calls himself the big guy, and that's not ironic. Shaven-headed from the moment he arrived in the WWE as he swiftly transferred to full-on bald, RYBACK did have a successful run, even if it didn't end too well. He used to beat up multiple jobbers, went on an undefeated streak, and main evented the odd pay-per-view here and there. It may have all hit a wall pretty quickly after he lost to CM Punk in one of these main events, but RYBACK was still over with the crowd and loved shouting "Feed me more" over and over again. And he did this without very few hairs on his head. Tremendous. Number 7, Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow was ahead of his time. While he may have tried to cover his baldness by tattooing up his own head, you'd never seen a guy of his size do the moves he would do. Moonsaults, diving, headbutts, splashes. Bam Bam moved like someone half his size and made a name for himself wherever he went. It's not like he was just a success in the States either. Bigelow went to Japan, teaming with another bald hero in Vader, winning the IWGP tag titles and genuinely being an absolute warrior till he came back to the good old US of A. Tragically passing away in 2007, he will always be remembered for his contributions to pro wrestling. Number 6, Batista. Did Batista once have hair? Absolutely. But we all make mistakes. And after a few years, the animal realized the error of his ways and shaved that mane down to nothing but stubble. And guess what? He looked twice as intimidating, twice as badass, and became twice as successful. Was Batista a movie star when he had hair? Absolutely not. And I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. He's been gone from the WWE long enough now that it's easy to forget, but he had an incredible run too. Not only was he a multiple-time world champion, but he improved his in-ring work no end throughout his career, as his match with The Undertaker proved at WrestleMania 23. I'm going to put it all down to his barren skull, although admittedly, he had hair in that match. But still. Number 5, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is so bald, he wears a do-rag wherever he goes. Now, in many ways, it gets me a bit upset. He wants to keep up the illusion that he has long blonde hair, even though the world and its dog knows he doesn't. You're not kidding anyone, Hogan. Give it up. But who else has been as prominent in the bald wrestling community as the Hulkster? He's only really ever had his back and sides, but he would still proudly walk to the ring and drop the leg on anyone who would deserve it. It looks weird when you find pictures of Hulk with hair, which is a testament to both his longevity and how he's been able to pull it off. Not many people can. If I did that, I'd look like a moron. Well, more of a moron. Given that Hogan is still the poster boy for this industry, it's a privilege to call him one of our own. Number 4, Kurt Angle. Do you know when Kurt Angle became Hall of Fame material? When he shaved his frickin' head. Done after Vince McMahon kept asking Angle when he was just going to get on with it. To say his hair was thinning would be an understatement. It inspired the Olympic gold medalist to be even more vicious, more driven, and more dominant than he'd ever been in the WWE. He carried this onto TNA too, where many said he carried the whole company on his bald head. Who had better matches than Angle? Nobody. Who could out-wrestle him? Nobody. On top of that, he's one of, if not the, most legit athlete to ever make the jump to pro wrestling, and picked up the sport quicker than nearly everyone else in history. In many ways, he's the best ever, and this all started to pick up speed when he adopted a naked dome. Good work, Kurt. Number 3. Martin Kirby. If there's anyone with a better head in pro wrestling than Martin Kirby, I don't know about them. Not only is the British wrestler a superstar in WCPW and the world over, but he's doing it without a single thread on his cranium. As with most people on this list too, Kirby's accomplishments speak for themselves. Even in the last few months he managed to pull off a surprise win over Will Ospreay, and the amount of titles he's racked up in his 10-year career would put the majority of wrestlers to shame. Tag championships, singles, belts, heavyweight gold, if it sparkles, Kirby will get his hand on it. And yes, that is a pun for being bald. Number 2. Goldberg. My dad, my hero. A man so badass, it's hard to find someone who could out-badass him. He played football in the NFL. He became one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling in record time. He now builds cars. Goldberg is just the man, and he's done it all without ever even needing to think about hair. In fact, imagine what he'd look like if he did have hair. You could argue the whole Goldberg character wouldn't have worked. A huge reason he got over like he did was because of his presentation. He marched to the ring, snorted, threw his hands all over the place. He was like a caged animal that had just been let out. Pretty hard to get that sensation if you've got a lovely side parting. Goldberg looked like he could beat up anyone, and his shaven head only added to that. It was part of his gimmick, and deserves a mention when talking about his success, which is what we've just done. Number 1. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Who else could possibly top this list than the greatest and most successful pro wrestler in the history books? Stone Cold Steve Austin may have made a name for himself when he was stunning, had hair, but he cemented his place for life by embracing the ways of the cue ball. When Austin really started to heat up in the late 90s, it felt like his toughest SOB gimmick was anything but. He stared daggers through people, and if you pissed him off, he had no problem whooping your ass. He won Royal Rumbles, World Championships, sold millions of dollars worth of merchandise, and to this day remains a face you would undoubtedly put on pro wrestling's Mount Rushmore. And when you carved that stone, what would happen when you got to his head? You'd leave it empty, blank, a surface of nothingness. Because Steve Austin didn't need hair. In fact, getting rid of it was when he truly became a legend. Know of any other bald heroes? Let us know in the comments below, and then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then come follow me on Twitter at SimonMiller316. Especially if you're bald. We can share stories, like the time I decided it was time to make the leap but only had a beard trimmer in my house. In short, don't ever shave your head using one of those. I look like a mess. I'm Simon from What Culture, and I'll chat to you again soon.